Welcome to the I'm a Busy Guy show. My name is Vince LoCascio, and I've got another busy guy here, L.W.Reedy. He's president of L.W.Reedy Real Estate in Elmhurst. Leo, nice to have you on the show.
Hi, Vince. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
You come from an organization that's got deep roots. The business was started in 1951 by your grandfather?
No, by my dad.
By your dad?
By my dad, yep. Yeah, my dad came out here in 51 at the corner of Spring and Villette, South Elmhurst. At that time, Elmhurst was a good real estate market, but it had its pockets of offices. So there were 2 or 3 offices on the south end of town, 3 or 4 up on the north end of town, some in the center. And we were in the southwest part of Elmhurst.
And how did he get into the real estate business?
Well, he was during the Depression, he was a policeman. And after that, he came out, worked as a salesman for his brother, Jack Reedy. My Uncle Jack had an office over in Villa Park. And then after a few years, they opened up the office in Elmhurst. And
that's what's now J.W. Reedy?
Well, J.W. is over in Villa Park. And they're actually in Lombard. They had 2 offices there in Villa Park. But L.W. Reedy, there's always a little confusion. But L.W. Reedy is in the Elmhurst area, and J.W. is over in Villa Park.
And the original structure, you said, is still there. You built another building in front of it, or?
Yeah, in 1987, we built a office building with apartments above, and the little building that Dad started a business with in 1951, we were able to save that. We put it in the back, and we used it for the office building there.
Nice.
And it's kind of interesting. The office, that building, when you ask about it, it was an office probably the size of a 1-car garage, maybe a little smaller than that even. And that was a sales office for a land developer for the south end of Elmhurst. And he would catch the people from downtown coming out on the Aurora and Elgin. They get off. You know, there was a lot of press advertising at that time. So that was before my dad started. That would have been in the 30s. And then at that time, that was the building that he bought at that time. It was abandoned, and they opened up the office.
Interesting. And there's a picture of it on the website as well.
Yeah.
And so now the building you're in at 101 North York was the post office at one time?
You know what? That building goes back to the turn of the century, and it has more users than I could ever think about. But yeah, it was a post office at one time. They had a shoe store in there. And we've been there since 1990.
And how did you get into the business? Was it inevitable, or?
I'd like to say I interviewed for it, and they couldn't turn me down.
You knew the guy?
You know what? The real estate business has always been a family business for us. And I think I knew all along that that's where I was going to go. So after I graduated from school.
Where did you go to school?
I went to a small school in northeast Iowa called Upper Iowa University. And so I graduated in '65 in the summer and started the business 43 years ago.
Wow, God bless you. And it continues to be a family
46, it's growing, man.
Yeah. It continues to be a family business because your son Larry and your daughter Laura are involved?
Yes, yeah, we're kind of excited about that. Larry and Laura have been with me for about 10 years now. And it's been a exciting time for me. You know, I could never quite figure out when my dad talked about the boys, which would be my brother Larry and my brother Bill and myself, and he'd talk, you know, if you wanted something about the house, you got a question, see the boys. Yeah. And he'd get excited about it. To me, I just didn't understand it. And I understand more now.
You have a brother Dick as well.
Yeah, my brother Dick had a travel agency. He sold that probably about 1990 or so, and so he's in the business as well. So it's still a family business. We have a nice sized staff. I have a manager, gal by the name of Karen Cookingham, who has done a wonderful job, and we have 60 agents now. So it's a different type of business. Yeah.
That's a big office.
It is. It is.
You've seen all the changes happen. One that comes to mind somewhat is it seems that always that in the local neighborhood or whatever, the same office would sell insurance and real estate. Did you do both?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even tell you how long ago it was, but I shortly after I was in the business, so I would say your mid-70s, I got an insurance license, and before that they sold insurance before I got it, but that's when I got my license. And it was pretty common then, and we did a lot of homeowners and some automobile, but most of it was, the homeowners insurances and things like that. We haven't done it in a long time, and I think most of the other businesses have, other offices, real estate offices, have done less and less of it. There's a lot of good companies out there, and they specialize in that, and the premiums are good, and the coverage is very good. And that's a tough business. There's lots of phone calls, and you get a
lot of regulations and laws
sure.
that have changed over
and we
the
have
years.
plenty to keep track of
With
on our
real
own.
estate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably say it more than once, but it's such a great testimonial that the endurance that your company has in the real estate industry with all the changes that have gone on. So I salute you for that. One of them goes without saying, is technology, the internet. Before we move on to that, because we'll lead into that, but can you tell, for the people that don't know, what is the multiple listing service?
Well, multiple listing is just in the early 60s, they would have gotten maybe 30 or 40 offices in maybe 8 or 10 different communities that would get together. So it was very localized in its own. And they would just share the listings with each other. So prior to that, if you wanted to sell your house, you'd come and see me, and I would handle that. And that would be the only office that would do it. Now, with multiple listing, it just gave every consumer, every buyer, an opportunity to go to one place and know what was available.
So if you had the listing before the multiple, you were the only guy that knew that it was for sale.
So it really helped the buyers because they didn't have to go to so many different offices. It helped the seller because it gave them that much more exposure. And it was a great system, except it had a lot of manual work because it was hard to keep track of all these properties. So the small offices, they might have had 8, 10, 20 listings. Now you have 1,000 listings. So you had daily maintenance that you'd have to do to keep track of it. So it was pretty tough to keep track of all of that.
And you mentioned something about, because now, to go back even further, there was a thing called the vest pocket listings.
Well, that's what they would refer to it. And basically it would amount to that an office would have 8, 10, 12, 15 listings, and the broker would keep the listings over here in his pocket. He'd bump into somebody and he'd show them what he had available. So it was referred to as a vest pocket listing. But basically, he kept all his inventory right close to his heart.
Nice. And then what was the next step? Was the multiple, which was what, a book about?
They went
book?
into the books. Well, before they went to the books, they came out with listing sheets, and they would come in a packet. They'd have somebody drive around. Can you imagine that at $4.50 a gallon now, driving these around? And each office would get their stack. Then you'd have to spread them out on the table. Once again, very, very labor intensive. Yeah. And then that would happen 3 times a week. And then daily, you'd get a listing sheet with corrections, price adjustments, changes of dates or schools or whatever it might be. So it was labor intensive. Then they came out with the computers, and I shouldn't even say computers, but it was telephone, and you'd take the phone and you'd put it in. It was more spontaneous, but it was.
Well, yeah, the first fax machines were like this. This big, and you put the phone in right inside it.
And then they had the actual books. They were more like telephone books, and they would come out once every other week.
Wow! So there's a lot of reprinting.
Oh, tremendous! More dad up in Minneapolis, one of the biggest printing companies out there, used to do it. So that was still a lot of book work. And then probably the early 80s. And then we got a little closer to what we've got now. Maybe mid-80s probably.
So now we just got the touch of a button.
Oh, yeah? Got it on your cell phone.
There you go.
Your iPhone, and you got all you have right there.
What about cell phones? I mean, everything's got to be instantaneous now. We talked earlier and asked about pay phones, but it wasn't that the society didn't need to know like right away like we do now.
Yeah. It's really funny because I went to an event down at McCormick Place, and there was a hallway there that had all the little cutouts for the cell phones. Nothing there.
Yeah.
They had hundreds of them down there. Now you're lucky if you find two or
For
three.
the payphones.
For the payphones, yeah. I'm sorry, I said cell phone for the payphones. Yeah, we have everything right there with the iPhones. You can pull up the information right there. It's an amazing world.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned how it's kind of gone full circle, where it's back to the vest pocket now because they're pulling the phone out.
Everybody's got all their information they need, right at hand.
Unbelievable. Okay, so now some new issues that and you've seen probably from 0 to 100 that have changed is starting with environmental, like mold.
Well, mold, you have radon, you have lead, the lead-based paint, all these things, and it's just another way of doing business. I mean, years ago, it was never even brought up. Then we get more and more involved with it. It's very helpful. They do a good job of educating us. They do a good job of educating the consumer, and then of course you have the home inspections and things like that. So the consumer is very well protected.
Well, it's creating a better inventory of homes too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you mentioned home inspections is, I guess it goes without saying most people would, but is there a reason why somebody wouldn't, or why you would suggest that they do get home inspections?
Oh yeah. I would encourage. I don't even know if I could think of in the last 4 or 5 years somebody that didn't get one. Unless maybe they're doing, a few years ago you do a tear down, somebody buying a house, they're going to tear it down anyway. You'll get some people that'll buy a house, they know it needs a lot of work, and they'll buy it in its as-is condition, but they still have the right to, and most people do, have that home inspection. And then, they know that there's work to do, but they just, have it for their protection.
And what about the American Disabilities Act? Only affects the public places, or is it a thing that'll happen with homes?
Well, there's all sorts of things that come into play. At this point in time, we don't have that as it would be, although there's certain houses and things like that where they're building that now with those ideas in mind.
And I mean, we can go on, and I'm certainly not an expert. You are, but financial change, one of them is that the way business is done now, you used to go to your local bank, right? Your neighborhood bank to get a loan for your house. Now you're dealing with banks all over the world.
Well, yeah, certainly banks all over the world. The local banks are still making loans. Community banks are making loans. But most of the business that you get are through loan officers. They walk around with their cell phones. They're available at 10:30 at night, available on weekends and things like that. So that's tough competition for that. But I think that is the difference. Heaven forbid, these words come out of my mouth, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, when that really got into place, it kind of put the hometown savings alone or the hometown bank at a big disadvantage, because those banks could only lend out the money that they had on deposit, and somebody's going to have that money for that loan for 30 years. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they would turn those loans over, sell them to a credit union or maybe insurance companies or whatever it is, and they could recycle that money. And unfortunately, that system, as we all know, got way out of kilter. But that was really the big difference on it. And that when I started, and we mentioned 1965, interest rates were at 5 to 6%. They had gone up as high as 15 and 16% in the early 80s, and now they're back lower than they were at that time. That is amazing. Yeah. And it really is one of the big pluses of what we have in our market right now today, is the fact that you can get money very, very cheap. If you're looking to be in a house for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, and the thought that you can get a fixed rate loan at less than 5% has been a big, big help to this market right now.
And it's a reality that you're only going to get a house that you can afford now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, and that affordability has come down tremendously over the last few years. And buyers have been very, very fortunate right now, and been some sad, sad stories and some real heartbreaks for a lot of sellers. That if somebody bought a house 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you know, they're going to come out all right. They're not going to get what they would have got 5 or 6 years ago, but they're going to come out all right. There's a group of people that were maybe bought between 2002 and 2007 or 8, and they got hurt real bad.
Yeah.
But for the buyers, wonderful opportunity for them right now.
And who's in the best position? First-time buyer? Like a young couple that's their first time buying their house?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a very, very good position.
What do you see, you know, with the booms and the busts and all that, with licensing? It seems, you know, a lot of people got on board, got their licenses when the houses were selling. I mean, there was a time when houses were only on the market for 2-3 days.
Oh, sure.
And everybody got into the act to be a...
Yeah, I think all of the industry across the country, you know, saw that big surge of people into the business. A lot of those people are out of it right now. There's a lot of tough people that hung on, and it's starting to pay off.
One of them, I mean, I'll say it again. It's a great testimonial. You've seen the booms and the busts.
You know, Vince, I'll tell you an interesting thing with that. When I started, 1965, 66 was not a real good year, and I was single at the time. I had a brother, Larry, who had, I think, 6 kids. And I felt bad because a buyer would come in, I'd be taking money out of his mouth. And I told my dad, I said, you know, maybe I should go do something else to the market. He says, you know what? There's always going to be people that are going to need to buy houses. There's always going to be people that are going to be selling houses. It always works, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you speak those same words now.
I see it now. I see the wisdom.
Experience is everything.
Yeah,
it's
sure
everything.
Is.
What about regulation? You've seen a lot of changes in laws take place, you know, that...
Yeah, I do, but I don't think it's changed the business. I mean, it makes a deal more complex, but it doesn't make it any different. And there's, for all of the things that are involved with it, you know, you have more people that are involved in it. The attorneys, they get you through those things.
They always get paid.
Well, they get paid, and they keep the thing to work. I mean, I've never seen an attorney that ever worked in a transaction to do anything other than to help their client and for the best interest of their client, and that's the way it should be. And then you have the home inspectors and the rest of that. So there's more people involved, but there's more protections for the consumer. So it doesn't change the whole thing. And the interesting thing about real estate is that the financing, all the technicalities and everything about it, it's still a very, very emotional transaction.
Yeah.
And a couple walks in, and you know, you could take them into 50 houses. If it's not the right house, they're not going to buy it. They walk into the right house, the perfect house, nothing could happen to talk them out of it. They would buy it no matter what. Yeah. So it's always going to be an emotional thing. So I think it'll be about the same.
And back to, I think, something that you've carried on over is that personal touch that you offer at Reedy. You know, because it sounds to me like you're concerned that it is an emotional thing for them. It's not only that, but it's the biggest investment they're going to make, you know, most people in their lifetime.
Yeah, I have some of my very, very best friends. There are people I've worked with that I sold houses with, and that you spend a lot of time, you know, with those people. You're out looking at 20, 30, 40 houses. You know, all the kids' names. You got candy smeared on the inside of your windows for the kids. So you know these people. It's a great. You know what, Vince? It's the greatest business in the world. Yeah. It really is. And I'm not saying that for anything corny. I've been in it and all these years, and I never wished that I could have done anything different.
That is great to hear. It's great to hear you say that, especially for the, you know, for a business that's taken a lot of hard knocks.
You know, we were talking a little bit before the show started, and it was kind of interesting because I'm at an interesting time right now. I'm second generation. I took over the business from my father, L.W.Reedy. My son, Larry, is the third generation, and he's also Larry. So I'm sandwiched in between these two guys, and they both work so differently.
Yeah.
The one was local, took care of his little corner of the world, and then the modern generation, they're all over, doing a lot of business downtown. I'm not saying just Larry, but all of the agents of this vintage doing business all over the city.
What would you say to someone to approach a realtor as to try to sell a house by themselves? All the tools or the networking that they offer?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for a homeowner is just the exposure that we can get so many places with the corporate relocations, and each agent, in each given market, they have their network of people they're working with. They have a reservoir of people that are looking for a given house at a given moment. So it brings a lot to the market. And I think, statistically, it can be shown that, everybody's concerned about the added cost of what the commission is and how that affects the net price. Mm-hmm. But I think statistically they can show that actually the homes that are listed with a broker, will bring more in the end. I mean, because of the added consumers or buyers that are brought to the table.
Sure. I mean, I was reading, but I think one of the statistics is that 57% of people look online first before they even call a realtor, looking for houses, because there's so many avenues they can get at, but multiple listings still is the best way to look at it.
Vince, I think the thing that's so interesting about that, I would think that it could be even higher than that. I think the number of buyers that are out there at 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, just looking through to see what's out there. So I think that it's true that that's where they start at. But really, the key to that is, and what I know that I have had with people that I've worked with, I can see it with my agents in the office, and they know when something's coming on the market. You might sit at the desk next to me and say, I'm getting in a nice 3-bedroom ranch. And, oh, geez, I've been looking for one for a long time. So I think that is really important. We had a sales meeting maybe 10, 15 years ago, and I brought in a bunch of stickers from STP, the oil company.
Yeah, I remember those stickers.
And we had a little fun with it because it was see the properties, STP, see the properties, and then see the people. So I think as long as real estate is what it is today, the agents that do a good job with it are going to be the ones that are in the know.
And how do you take your group on tours to see properties that are on the market?
Yeah. We have our meetings on Monday mornings. We look at the listings that our agents brought in, and in each area, they have a tour on a given day where all of the listings and new listings in the marketplace come on. And those agents that do the big job, they're out there looking at those new ones. Get a jump on the market.
Knowledge is power.
Yep.
Right? When people say the term I'm going to call a realtor. Realtor is an organization?
Right, National Association of Realtors. And then we have our local, real estate within our marketplace, which is Main Street. And then, there's all the education and things that come about through those sources.
Once again, purchasing a home is such a huge thing, and your staying power in the business, or longevity, I should say, I'm sure that you see, if I'm selling a house and my kid grows up, my kid's going to come and see you. You see repeat business from families?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's exciting. I can't tell you how exciting it is. And I think there's a lot of times where, somebody can say, thanks a lot, you did a nice job. But when somebody goes to that extent to do it, I'm working with it, and that, just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I work with a great couple that I just probably had them out for 3 or 4 weeks. I sold their parents a house in the late 70s. And you get that phone call, and it's exciting. And you try to stay in touch with them because you can't always expect them to remember you. But it's fun, and I got a lot of good experiences like that.
Yeah, the referrals is everything, right, in business. What type of training are, it could go on and on, but what type of training is a realtor really have to take nowadays?
Well, I think communication skills, it's like teaching somebody to play center field. It's pretty hard to teach somebody that part. And then with the technology and things, a lot of the information that we have, very helpful. But I think you have a lot of licensing things that you want to take care of. We have an in-house program with that, but the National Association has it. There's many, many places that you can get that. Our local board does a wonderful job. And then just basically teaching them the sales skills. And I think this sales skills are really come in different things. We have a lot of people that have been in education. One of my agents that does a wonderful job, she's a nurse. So you have people that don't have that experience. So you have to cover that part of it as well.
So they've got to cover that.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any core values that you stand behind? I'm sure you do to get to this far that L.W.Reedy has.
Well, I think the thing that I have always felt that is that you're a little bit of a cheerleader. When they're out looking and they can't find the right house, or right now you're with some sellers and it's been a long pull to get the house on the market. Might be in the market for 6-8 months, and not a lot of showings. So I think really we are a little bit like to hold the hand of those people. But I think just basically staying in touch with people, staying in touch.
That's great, because you said it more than once. It's about the people.
Oh yeah.
What advice would you have to someone wanting to get into the business?
Well, it's a tough time right now. I have 2 people that started with us in the last month, and they have time to learn the business. If you would have started 4 or 5 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, you were there, and it's do the best you can with it. So I think that is one of the real good things with it. And there's a lot of sales out there if they're priced right and that. So they can do it, but it takes a determination.
Yeah. It seems that the staying power all comes back to your dedication and all of L.W.Reedy's dedication to the business, because a lot of people haven't survived.
I have a lot of agents. We have 60 agents in the office, and I can tell you that it's been tough times for them, as it has for many sellers and so on and so forth. They understand it, and they understand that they've done a good job over the years, and they have. The good ones are still able to make their transactions and make it happen.
Yeah, and you're a pro, let me tell you. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. Here's the box of cannolis for you.
Oh my God, my favorite.
Oh yeah.
What's a cannoli?
What's a cannoli? It's the
Vince,
shell.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Look it up online.
When I get this home, my wife loves cannoli, so these will go.
Okay. I got to take this call. I knew it was coming.
Now, you didn't count these,
I'm a busy guy. Thanks for being on the show, and you are a busy guy.
All right. Well, great to be here.
All right.
All right.
Keep up that dedication.
Now, if you get any calls while you're gone, you want me to take them for you?
Yeah, I'll give you the referral on that. Take care. Thank you.
All right.
I'll tell that guy I'll be right with him on the phone. All right.
Oh, man, it's got it all taped up. Hard to get into.